Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. You are here for HoneyBook Smart Files, rethinking your client flows to streamline bookings. I'm so glad you're all here. Let's get started and go through our agenda. Yes, so we are going to be going through our kind of main goal today, what our objective is here. We're going to go through what smart files are, what it means for your business, how you can use them. We'll explain a little bit about the hierarchy of smart files when you're building them, how you can kind of think about the different levels and layers of building out a smart file. We'll touch slightly on automations, just do kind of a high level overview. I already did a session a couple of weeks ago around a really, really deep dive into smart files and automations and how to use them hand in hand. So if you missed that session, definitely go check it out in the Help Center. You can just type in smart files automations webinar, and I guarantee you it will come up. And then we'll kind of wrap it up actually building out a hands-off booking flow. That is our main focus today, right? Is all around how to build a hands-off booking flow. We'll talk about some of the use cases for building a smart file like that, like who would benefit from it, why you should consider using one, why you might have one with your business. And then we'll go through how to share that file with your clients, whether you want to share it in a one-off situation or you actually truly want to have it be a hands-off experience, which would mean we're relying a little bit on automations. I think that was everything. Let's get started. So my name's Mac. I am part of the product education team here. I'm actually the product evangelist here at HoneyBook. So I've been a HoneyBook employee since 2017. I know the product like the back of my hand. If you've been to one of our webinars in the past, hopefully we've met before. This is kind of my thing. So hopefully we've seen each other, and I welcome you back. If this is our first time meeting, I'm so happy you're here. I can't wait to go through all this amazing content with you guys today. And I try not to be biased, but I'm pretty excited about this session. I think this is going to be a huge game changer. We're talking about features that have never existed before in HoneyBook. So I'm stoked. Okay, let's dive into our goal today. Our goal today is to have an automation send a smart file with service selection, payment, and contract. So what we're talking about is creating a hands-off, even automated booking experience. So who might benefit from this? Like, what are some examples of what this might look like? When I was thinking about it, there are two kind of main examples that I could see someone benefiting from having a hands-off booking flow with their business. First off is just to allow you to sell evergreen products or to sell products as services, and kind of build some passive income products into your HoneyBook workflow. I think it was like last year, I came on and we had one of our educators, Latasha, on screen, and we were talking about all about passive income in HoneyBook, and we kind of hodgepodge together how to do it in the tools that existed in yesterday's version of HoneyBook. Now it's going to be super easy for you guys. So we're going to kind of recap that and go through what it would look like to truly automate from contact form submission through the booking process and selling some evergreen products or products as services in the HoneyBook tool, which is like amazing. Again, this is something that never existed with the previous set of HoneyBook tools. So this is super exciting. That's kind of my first use case for what we're going to be going through today. The second use case, I think, is a little bit more traditional and a little bit more relatable to probably the majority of the crowd today. And that is to build out a booking flow that has kind of the assumptive close in it. So this is a term that we use at HoneyBook, basically just meant to convey, the idea that I've been talking about this a lot actually with some of my audiences. The idea that the booking process begins when your client has made up their mind that you're the right person for the job. Okay, so I want to challenge your guys' thinking a little bit today in that the booking process does not begin the moment you send an invoice, because that's in your control. The client is ultimately the one who's making the decision to book you or not, right? So the booking process actually begins at the moment that your client has decided that you're the right person for the job. So how easy are you making it for them to submit payment in that moment at that time? So this is where the assumptive close comes in, because at the same moment that maybe you're really putting yourself forward, selling your products, selling your services, showcasing what you can do, typically probably in a pricing guide, right? Or some kind of quote or something like that. Also allowing your clients the ability to pay. I have a lot of pushback with my members saying, well, I don't want to, show a payments page if they're not ready to book. I guarantee you, your clients are not going to be offended if there's a payment page there, if you include some additional context, right? So you've got a whole beautiful document. We'll go through this too. You've got a whole beautiful document, really selling yourself, really selling your services, really explaining, setting expectations with your clients, showcasing your services, allowing your clients to select the services they're interested in moving forward with, and then taking it a step further and saying, hey, if you want to, submit your retainer, here's the page where you can do that, so that those clients who are ready to move forward have the ability to do so. Okay, so those are the kind of two use cases we're talking about. So again, our goal is to build an automation to send a smart file for a hands-off booking experience, whether that be through a pricing guide and kind of an assumptive close situation where you are going to have an interaction with the clients, or a truly hands-off experience where you're selling something kind of evergreen. Maybe you're going to get a product ultimately to your clients, and something that's maybe more of a form of passive income, and you're wanting to add that into your HoneyBook workflow. Okay, those are just two examples, but again, each step of what we're going to be going through today, I want you to view through your own lens of expertise and your own awareness of your own process, right? Like, you are the master of your own process at the end of the day. You know it better than I do. So take what I'm saying and use it for your own benefit. What I'm saying might not 100% apply to you, because I got a lot of you guys on this call today. So take it with a grain of salt. Take it, grow with it, let it plant a seed, think on it, whatever you need. Take what you need, leave the rest, okay? Let's move into the next portion here. I want to define smart files for you guys. Well, what are we talking about here? If you've not had the chance to attend my orientation session on Tuesday evenings, I want to give you guys a quick level set around what smart files are. So, big picture, what we're talking about here is that smart files help you level up your process from both a design and function perspective. Okay, so that's what's changed here. When we're talking about the old version of files, maybe you're coming from a system outside of HoneyBook, maybe you're brand new with us. What we're talking about here is that the design and the function of files have changed. So now you have customization from a visual perspective. So the file is going to look exactly the way you want it to look, and it's going to do exactly what you need it to do. Okay, so what does that mean? How have we done that? We've kind of taken the walls off the traditional definitions of what a file can do. So let me take you in a little quick time machine to a year ago, even in the HoneyBook system. An invoice is a simple file. There's a header at the top. The logo is static. It's got line items of what the client is receiving. It's got a payment schedule down at the bottom, and it's got the option for the client to pay. We had one level up from that, which was the proposal file, right? And that combined the file that I just described, plus it had a contract element. So we were like, ooh, we're combining steps here. We've got two different functions inside of one file. But, even thinking about our most dynamic, our most customizable file, the brochure, was still relatively rigid, especially from a design perspective. Some of those, content blocks you could add, you could only have two images side by side. The sizing wasn't super clear. There was just a lot of things that were pretty rigid. So now with smart files, any one function of a traditional file, so contracts, service selection, questions, signatures, payment, all of that stuff, content, images, video. We've added video into the mix here. So any of that can be added into a single file to ensure that the file, again, looks exactly how you need it to look and does exactly what you need it to do. So you can still build a simple invoice, right? You can still build a plain white page invoice with line items and a payment schedule and the ability to pay. But I want you guys to think critically about your process and where you can maybe afford to combine some steps, like maybe that invoice would be better off if it had that contract attached to it, because in your process, when you book someone, you need them to submit signature and payment on the first day when they're signing up to work with you. So think critically about your process and where you need clients to, basically a file is a single client interaction, right? So just think about when your client is sitting down to have a single interaction with you, how much can you have them do at once, so that they have access to moving forward with the next step in your process, so they're not waiting for you to get back to them, or vice versa, you're waiting for them to get back to you because they submitted payment, but now you're waiting for a signature, da-da-da. Let's make it easy. A single client interaction can be exactly what you need it to be. You just have to know what you need that to do. So it's a little bit like, the tools are flexible and customizable enough for you to do whatever you need to do, but you also need to have like a little check-in with yourself to be aware of your process enough so that you can bring that to the system and say, this is what I need the system to do for me. Okay, so to wrap this all up, Smart Files allow you to do everything in one beautifully branded, compelling document. So ultimately, you define your process and how you as a brand are presenting yourself to your clients. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here with Smart Files. Let's go through the kind of hierarchy of what it looks like when you're going to build out a Smart File. So when it comes to building these, there's a visual builder. Okay, so if you're someone who's used Squarespace, I think WebEx maybe has something like this too. Visual builders are something that a lot of web designers are aware of. So if you're not, it's totally fine. It just means that it's going to visually show you what you're building as you're going through, and it just makes it super, super easy for you. So to review the hierarchy really quick, you're going to start with templates. So this is very familiar, right? You know what templates are. You've been using templates with HoneyBook, so you already know what this is. From your templates, you're going to go into a template, okay? And then you've got pages. So within each template, you can have multiple pages of information or actions that you need the client to complete. So here we've got an about me page, introducing them to the process, setting expectations, getting started. Maybe that's a service selection component there. Maybe you've got an invoice contract, whatever you want it to be. Okay, so you're going to lay out your pages within this document. But again, it's one singular file. It's one singular client interaction that they're going to be receiving at one time from you. I get folks asking me, oh, if I need to add a contract later on, do I just add that? No. You don't add something to a file. If that's a different client interaction, it's a different file, just like it is today. Okay, so just think about Smart Files like files. It's a single client interaction. So when you send it, you're not going to go back and add something later on. You're just going to send a new version of a different interaction with them, which contains whatever it needs to contain. Okay, hopefully you guys are still with me. So we've got templates, we've got pages, and then within each page, there are blocks. And the blocks even contain elements of different things. They can have images, dividers, text. We'll go through that more, but this is kind of our hierarchy. Okay, you've got templates, pages within your template, and then blocks within. To see this more, I'm actually going to go into a product demo. I know it's taking me forever, but we will go into it. I just want to level set with you guys really quickly. This is kind of our hierarchy that we'll be approaching building them today. Okay, so what does it actually look like when you go to add a block? Let's get into some of these block options. So we have text here. We have text is super straightforward, so I'm not going to explain it. We've got questions. This is great for collecting information from your clients. You could have one single question where maybe you need to collect feedback on a design, or maybe you want to have a whole list of questions, more like a form where you're really qualifying your leads or getting a lot of information from them during the onboarding process to kick off your project with them, getting feedback during the offboarding experience, asking them what it was like to work with you. Okay, images, I already teased a little bit to video. Video, we talked about a ton in our session a couple weeks ago. That's one of the things that Angie uses to really level up. She actually doubled her income by using Smart Files, and video was a huge piece of that. So you can welcome your clients with video. So it's a super, super personal way to connect with your clients without it having to be unique every single time. They still get to see your face. They still get to get introduced to what you do and kind of really have your brand be the best foot forward there. So video is amazing. You can explain services in your videos. You can show happy clients or testimonials, or you could just show you like in your zone, in your space, doing what you do best as kind of like a little promotional video to welcome them into your brand as well. It just really depends. Video is amazing. Definitely get on board with that as soon as you can. We're all moving more to a video space, so that'll be enough for my rant on that, but highly recommend. Dividers are basically just a way to help you split up your content so you don't have to hit enter all day long. Company info block is going to pull straight from your company settings. It's going to pull in a bunch of different formatted options of your company logo, your social links, your contact information, however you want that to look. And then layouts here are going to basically be pre-formatted little blocks with all of the information that we've talked about here in different formats and things. So you don't have to compile those all together on your own, but you basically don't have to start from scratch with the layouts. It's just pre-formatted ways to get that information added in. Of course, we have services here, which is going to allow your clients to select what services they're interested in. So this is great for super interactive proposals. This is going to be a huge piece of what we are talking about today. So I'm going to go into way more detail later on. Of course, contracts and invoices as well. So nothing has really changed there. But again, one single file can do any of these things. So hopefully you guys are starting to get up to speed with me when I'm talking about this being like, we're taking the walls off this thing and you guys are ultimately in control. The file can do whatever you need it to do. You just have to decide what it is you need it to do, which can feel a little scary, but I'm going to walk you through it today. So don't worry about it. Okay, let's get back to our goal for the day, right? Our goal is to have an automation send a smart file with service selection, payment, and contract to create a hands-off, even automated, potentially booking experience. Okay. There are some preliminary steps that you need to do first in order to build an automation. So if you attended my automation webinar a couple of weeks ago, you know what these steps are. But as a little refresher for you guys, I'm going to pop actually into the chat here the link to the other week's session so you guys can go and check that out, because we're not going to do a full deep dive into automations today. I did a whole hour-long thing on it because it takes that long to explain it all in a couple weeks ago session. So go check that out. But as a quick high-level refresher, just to get you guys up to speed, the 5 steps to building an automation in HoneyBook. A+ to anyone who can pop these in the chat before they're up on the screen. So first step is to set up your project types. You can do this in your company settings. This is going to be a huge help if you are one of my folks out in the crowd today that really wants to build an automated hands-off booking flow where you're selling products as services or evergreen content in your HoneyBook workflow. The project types are going to help you tie the automation to specific individual clients based off of what they're inquiring about. Okay, so set up your project types first. Then you need to connect your project types to your contact form, right? So that's the piece where your clients are going to be filling out the form and indicating to you what type of client they are. There's 2 ways to assign a project type. First off, you can have the project type question where your client can actually say, this is the type of project that I am. This is the type of client that I am. This is what I'm interested in inquiring about. Or you can manually apply the project type to a specific contact form. So you say, only my evergreen clients are going to fill out this contact form. I don't let anyone else see this contact form. So if they fill out this specific form, I want the evergreen project type to be assigned, which would then trigger an automation. Okay, hopefully you guys are keeping up. Damien, yes, you're close. We're getting to the next one. Build your templates. I love it. So the third step here is build out your templates. Okay, once you've kind of built out that lead funneling, that project type way of getting information into HoneyBook, you need to head to the templates section. This is where we'll largely be spending our time today during today's session, is building out the templates. Specifically, we're going to build that hands-off booking flow template. Anytime you're going to set up automations, you need to make sure that not only the file that you intend to send, but also the email that you are sending the file with are both set up, because when you get to the automation itself, you know that files need to be sent with emails. So you want both of those templates to be ready to go. Okay, so the third step is building out the templates and the files that are going to be required of you when you go to build the automation. Fourth step is building the automation. So we'll go in and actually build out the steps of what you need to happen. For all intents and purposes today, I'm really just going to build a one-step workflow, and then I'll kind of leave it up to you guys because, again, everyone's process is going to be a little bit different. So you'll go ahead and just build out the automation, which today we're going to keep it super, super simple, and then connect the automation to a project, which again, there are several ways to do this. You can connect it generally to the contact form. You can connect it specifically to a project type, or you can manually assign it to a project. Okay. I know that's a lot. That's why we did an hour-long session on it several weeks ago. So please go check out that recording that I popped in the chat there if you need more details. Really quickly, and I saw people popping into the chat asking about this too, I want to explain the difference between smart files and automations. Okay, so I know this is a big kind of hot question when people are first kind of transitioning and trying to figure out how smart files and automations are going to work for their business. So first off, smart files is about combining steps into a single file, one file for a single client interaction. Okay. Automations is almost like the opposite. It's when we're separating out steps into multiple interactions across time with your clients. That's very different, right? A file can be sent in an automation as one piece of it, but then there's like, you can have, a new file, a new email sent like 6 days later, 5 days later, 3 days later, all of that. Okay. So that's what we're talking about here. If you need to screenshot this, print it out, whatever, tape it to your forehead, walk around town, whatever you got to do, hopefully this is making sense. I see people in the chat affirming me that this is making sense. Yes, you can combine smart files and automations, Paula. That is what our session a couple weeks ago is all about. And that's what we're going to be talking about today too. Okay. So again, just to recap the 5 steps. This is what it takes to build an automation, but for today's sake, for today's session, we are just going to focus and zoom in on step 3 here, where we are actually going to be building our hands-off all-in-one booking flow. Okay. I've been talking a lot. Let's actually check out the product. Let's see what it's all about. So there are 3 options when it comes to building a new smart file. Okay, first off, if you guys have not upgraded to smart files yet, we are not forcing an opt-in at all. We are allowing you guys still just to opt in. If you have not opted in yet, I am sending the option to do that now. It should be in the left-hand side of your screen and at the top of the chat. It does not cost anything else. It is just simply adding the feature to your HoneyBook account. So if you've not done it yet, use that link and it will be added to your account. Okay, so let's dive in here. There are 3 options for building a new smart file. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to come up to Tools, My Templates, and you're going to have this new looking experience for the smart files template gallery. Okay, so hopefully it's going to load for me. Okay, great. Okay, so you can start from an existing template. So this is amazing. Our team has already transferred all of your legacy templates, your old version of templates into smart files, into the smart files builder, into the template. So when you come to your templates page, this content is all your content. It's all already here. So you can start from an existing template and you can add to it. So for today's sake, we're talking about combining steps and building an all-inclusive, all-in-one booking flow, which would mean we're combining contract, invoice, and services. You did not have the ability to do that before in a file, so you are going to have to take your existing stuff and add to it. So that would be the first step. That's my first recommendation. So find either an invoice that you already have or a contract that you already have. So this is going to show you all of your proposal files, right? Or you can turn those filters off. So you guys notice I'm filtering to search for those old versions of files. Or you can start with basically what was a brochure file and anything that contains services and add to it there. That's my recommendation for starting if you have it. If you don't have it, if you didn't have something that contains services, you don't really have invoices built out or proposals built out, that's totally fine. The example I'm actually going to go through today is starting from scratch. So you'll be able to see how to do it from there. So that's the first way, right? Start from an existing template that we've already transferred over, either a brochure, an invoice, a proposal, contract, whatever it is, and then just add the missing pieces. The second option for you guys is to start in the template gallery. This is like chef's kiss, amazing stuff here. Come here to look for inspiration, whether it's from a process perspective or a design perspective. Okay, so look at what people are doing in terms of the actions, the steps, the content. What does it look like? Once you get into the design, like what it look, right? Because it's design and function. That's what's changed here. So you can approach it from a design perspective. How have they made it really beautiful? And can you just replace, some of the images with your own images? Or from a function perspective, how have they combined steps and what is working for them in this file? So you can come in here, you can search for pricing and service guides. That's probably what I would do. And I would maybe, pop through some of these examples. You can scroll through, see what they look like, find one that fits your specific business. This one's for a wedding planner, and this is like a design mood board that has service selection, services and pricing. This is a business consultant. It looks like this is one of my favorite templates actually that I use in like a lot of my examples. You can also search by industry. Okay. So if you want a pricing guide for business consultants, right away, you're going to get a ton of options here to search through. Okay, so you can filter by industry and what you're looking for and use these. And then again, add the missing pieces. Okay, so those are your first two options. The third option here is obviously just to start from scratch. So again, for the sake of today's webinar, I'm going to be starting from scratch, but you all will likely be starting from duplicating an existing template. So, take an existing service document, which was probably a brochure or an invoice contract, whatever you need to do, find the document that you want to use. And rather than clicking right in and adding to it, just to give yourself that extra layer, that extra peace of mind, hover over the 3-dot icon and duplicate it. And that new duplicated version is where you'll start to add those pieces and experiment. That way you're not starting from scratch. You can start from that exact template and add on from there. Okay, or you'll start with a template from the template gallery and just change it to fit your needs. Okay, so like I promised, today we're going to be starting from scratch. So I'm just going to click Create New, and I'm going to come down to Services. And now I've got my nice service template, and I'm just really starting from scratch. Okay, so again, to review the hierarchy, this hierarchy is kind of coming to life, right? We started in the templates. We're creating a new template, and now I see my pages over here. And then within, I'm in one page, I can see there's a block here. So this is my first block, my second block, and then that's it. I've just got 2 blocks right now. So it's a very, very simple file at the moment. What I'm going to do, the way I'm going to advise you guys to build this out from scratch, if that is the way that you decide to go through it. Again, not my advised way, because there are much easier places to start from. You can start from the templates and you can start from existing content that you have. But if you want to do it like me and start from scratch, that's really fine. The way we're going to do it is we're going to make sure that all of our pages are here first. Okay, so I've got my service page because I selected a service document, so that was automatically added for me. Now I'm going to go to add a new page. This is where we get introduced to the idea of reusable pages. So every single template that you have in your templates, so not from the template gallery, but from your templates that you've built and saved and know and love, every page in those templates is saved here for you to reuse inside the builder. So right away, you're not having to start from scratch. You can pull in from other templates super easily. So there's reusable pages, and there's also reusable blocks. Okay, so this is going to make it super easy when you need to go build a file, even if you're building it from scratch. Okay, so let's say I know I'm going to want a contract added to this file, right? Because those are our 3 steps that we're trying to build out. We're trying to have a file with services, a contract, and an invoice. So I know I need my contract in here. Let's see what else. I know my basic proposal has a really pretty welcome page, so I want to include that one. And cool, this has an invoice too, so I'm going to add those 3 pages. And it even has this thank you page, which I like to include also. So I'm going to go ahead and add those 4 pages. And now I can drag and drop and change the order. So I'm going to put my intro up here. I want to put my contract in between the invoice and payment. The thank you page is in the right place. I don't really want to dive straight from the welcome right into selling my services. I want to kind of warm them up a little bit. So I actually do want to just start from blank with one of my pages where I'm going to be including some client love. And that'll be where some of my testimonials are. And then let's say I even want to have a page where I set expectations. So I'm just going to call this expectations. Good thing I can spell. Cool. So this intro is I'm actually going to title it Welcome, Expectations, Client Love. Then I'll go into my services. Then I'll have the invoice where they can actually go ahead and pay, or actually they can review what they've just selected and the grand total. Then they'll review the legal terms and sign off, and then they'll have the ability to pay, and then a thank you. And maybe this will actually just be next steps. Okay, so that's what I do first. I'm going to make sure that I'm inside my file. Any reusable pages that I need to add in, I've added in, and I've kind of built out kind of the skeleton of my file. For this, I think I've got 8 pages here, something like that. And I've titled them all, and I've got this really nice skeleton now, because that's my hierarchy, right? I've got the template and I've got my pages. So I've kind of got this structure. Now I'm going to go back into each individual page and perfect it and really start to, fill it out and get a lot more content added in there. Okay. So for me, this is my welcome page. The way I got this background image to sit here is in this page settings section. I'll show you that in a couple pages. But so this is going to be, I'm going to give it a title also. So this is my hands-off booking flow. Okay, so in my typical use case with this welcome page, it just says, thank you for choosing our services. In this document, you'll be able to review our contract and invoice. Please sign and pay to officially move forward with your next steps. This message no longer applies to this file, because this file I know is going to be sent at a different part in my process. So the structure, from a visual perspective of this page does make sense, but I do need to adjust the text to fit this specific situation I'm going to be using it for, which is that I'm maybe not even going to talk to this client. They're going to submit a contact form, and I'm going to want to send this over. Okay. So for my folks who are just wanting to, because there are 2 kind of use cases I talked through today, right? There's like the assumptive close inside of a pricing guide. And then there's the client or the member who's going to be using this to sell evergreen products. So if you're in the camp of selling evergreen products, you would say something like, thank you so much for inquiring. Or thank you so much for your interest in our X program. Here's what will happen in this file, and just kind of walk them through what it's like. Maybe you even include a welcome video here where you're saying like, I'm so excited you're here. Thank you so much for joining this program. Go through the next couple pages, and when you reach the end, you'll get access to my course or whatever that might look like for you. Now, if this is your pricing guide where you're asking, kind of conveying your services, setting expectations, showing your happy clients and testimonials, allowing the client to select the services they're interested in, your messaging might be a little bit different. It's going to be, thank you so much for inquiring. We're so honored that you reached out. We're really happy at the opportunity to work with you. In this file, you'll be able to review, and then you can kind of outline and kind of set expectations. There are a bunch of great options for this in the template gallery, actually. So I know I have my one saved in here. So this is actually a great example. Maybe I'll just pull this one in just to she's got some great expectations and client love stuff in here. So maybe let's include those instead of me starting totally from scratch. So I'm gonna move this up here, and this will actually, nice to meet you, actually kind of says the same thing. So I'll remove this original welcome page. What to expect, that's going to replace my expectations page that I built out here. And then the client love, again, is going to replace my original client love. And now I've got a way better format to start from. So, hey there, welcome to, I know I can replace this with my business name. So let's say this is Cube Design Company. Services and pricing guide for creative entrepreneurs. Great, this looks good. Hey friend, excited you're here. I'm going to sign my name. This is all looking good. This copy is, telling me right here, this is where I need to give a little insight into my business. So for the sake of right now, I'm just going to, lorem ipsum it or whatever I need to do there. And then I need to replace this with my photo, and I can do a corner radius, and I want to make this bigger again so it's the same size as what it was. That looks good to me. Okay, this is starting to look more and more like my brand. Maybe I want this background image to change, so I just click into that and I can see the background image is here. And I want to replace this with something else. Let's see what I've got here. I like my little flowers. Let's keep that. Great. So this is looking good. This is feeling like my business. Great. The expectations page. Oops, I guess I deleted the wrong one. Okay. Let's add it back in. There we are. What to expect. Add one page. I'm going to pull it up to the top here. So again, what to expect. And maybe I again want to replace this with my own image. Probably not use the same image exactly again, but we can even crop it further. So let's do 3x4, change it a little bit. Doesn't make so much of a difference, but you guys are getting the gist, right? You can go through and start to replace it with your own content, but just use this as a general structure. Okay, so we've got our nice to meet you, what to expect with the client, or what they can expect from you. Here's how it's going to go. Here's the ultimate experience when you hire me as your, let's say we are a web designer. Okay, here's a peek at what you can expect. We're going to grab a coffee and have a chat. We're going to sign on the dotted line. The adventure begins. So this process is a little bit different, right? Because we're building a hands-off booking flow. So rather than us grabbing coffee in person, we're going to say, select your services and pay. Sign on the dotted line. That's actually going to happen. Select your services, sign on the dotted line, and pay. That's all going to be step one. And then maybe after that is when we grab coffee and have a chat to kick things off. The adventure begins. This is when I'll start work with you. Now we're really going, and then celebrate and continued support. Okay, so adjust it to fit your needs, whatever. For today's example, we are talking about a hands-off booking flow. So I just wanted to show you kind of what that would look like. Okay, down here we can see she's really setting expectations about how she stays organized and how she's communicating with her clients. This is a great thing to do with your clients, especially when you're doing this kind of hands-off booking flow. This is a way to maintain that personalized communication with your clients without it having to be unique every single time. Okay, so this is, again, if you've been in one of my webinars in the past, you probably heard me say this. I am like a big proponent of personalized communications with your clients without it being unique every single time. So what does that mean? When it's unique every single time, that means you are sitting down uniquely in a vacuum, approaching every single client like it's the first time you've ever dealt with a client before, and you're typing everything out from scratch and you're replying to them. You're reacting rather than proactively having a system set up. So you can still have a personalized, beautifully branded, super compelling document with video, even with your brand, with setting expectations, with your voice, your excitement for them, inviting them into your process, inviting them into the experience of working with you. They're going to see that best foot forward from you, and they're going to feel like they're personally interacting with you without it having to be unique every single time, because maybe every single client who inquires about this specific service from you is going to be getting the same document, but it feels personal to each of them, right? Your clients aren't all talking to each other behind your back or something. So give yourself the opportunity to be personalized and personally interacting with your clients from a very branded, compelling perspective without it having to be unique every single time, okay? Let's move on to services because we're getting a little tight on time here. This is where I wanted to spend the majority of our time today. So when you go to add in services, all of your packages are here. I saw some folks were confused around packages versus pricing versus services versus brochure versus this new version of doing it versus automations. We're going to clear that all up, okay? So all your packages are still here for you to be able to pull in however you need it. So you can search them by name. It's very easy to pull them in. Okay, so you've got this one, let's say, and you can adjust all of the settings of this too. When you click into each block, it's pulling up the settings in the right-hand menu for you to be able to adjust. So this is where you adjust your service settings. You can say your client is supposed to select one, they're supposed to select multiple, or you can set it to a view-only mode. The view-only mode is not going to allow your clients to select anything. It is simply just showing almost more like a quote, like, hey, here's what we discussed. So for the purpose of a hands-off booking flow, you're probably not going to do a view-only mode unless actually you are doing the evergreen service or the evergreen kind of case study example that we were talking about today. If that's you, you might just want to do a view only where this service page is actually just conveying what the client's going to be getting in this course or whatever it is you're actually selling to them. You'll notice when you click the view only mode, you can say that you want this information to then be pulled into the invoice. If you're selecting multiple, that's just automatically going to happen since you already have the invoice component attached. So whatever the client selects will then automatically pull into the invoice, which is to say if they don't select anything, nothing will be pulled into the invoice and they don't have to move forward with that part of the process. So when you build a booking smart file like this, the action blocks, so let's take a look. All of the blocks listed under actions are going to act as like stoppers in this file. So your client will not be moving on from this services page until they have made a selection if you're requiring a selection to be made. Okay. So if you say selection is required, the client is going to stop at this page if they do not make a selection, which is to say they won't see the invoice unless they've actually moved forward with selecting a service. So you don't have to be fearful of them seeing that. If they just get to, this page, which is page 4 in your document, that's kind of where they're going to be held up because they haven't selected anything yet. Okay. We can make this look way prettier. Just for the sake of time, again, I'm going to pull from my template from the template gallery just to show you an idea of what services could look like. I'm going to delete this other one. Okay, so services and offerings below is a list. She's got it set up with a little quick description of each, and then down below, she's got a deeper dive with the ability for clients to actually select multiple things that they might want to move forward with. These are all just placeholders again. The other thing you can do is you can switch up the design here. So let's say we want to do columns. Okay, so this makes it a little bit easier to for your clients, I think, to compare side by side. It just makes it a little bit easier than scrolling through rows and rows. But if you like to keep it as rows, you can totally do that. You can even do 3 columns. I think it gets a little dense when you've got a lot of words going on like she does here. So I'm just going to keep them at 2 columns. And I actually don't think that you need something like this when you have what we have down below. So for me, I'm going to say visually, that's not super important. So I'm actually just going to get rid of all of that and just go straight into the service selection piece here. Okay. And maybe this is where you decide to include a video because you want to introduce the different services to your client. So rather than having that overview that's written text, you want to have a video here explaining your services to your client and walking them through what it's like to book any of these services with you. Okay. Then you've got the invoice. This will pull in the client service selections from the previous page. You can also add static items. So you can say, I want my clients to be able to select the services they're interested in, but I know I always charge for a consult call, and my client's not going to know that I do that, but that is part of my policy. So you want to go ahead and add any static additional items in here that aren't necessarily up to the client, but you still need to be able to bill them for. Okay, in this case, I don't need to charge them for anything additional. Whatever they choose is what they're going to pay for. I'm going to build out the payment plan here. If I'm doing kind of my use case of the evergreen, selling a product, I just want them to pay everything up front, and then maybe on the last page, they're going to get access to it. And maybe if it's an evergreen, you don't need them to sign a contract. You just need them to pay for it, and then they get access. So again, couple different situations we can explore here. Build out the payment schedule. You've got the contract saying what it needs to say. You can set a background image for these. I know I promised you guys I would go through that. I like my little flowers. Just makes it kind of look like a little web page almost. And you can adjust the opacity as well to make it a little bit more faint. So I like the way that looks. For the payment page, I want to do the same thing just to make it feel really consistent. Okay, client got the ability to pay here. And then next steps, this is where I would be setting expectations for what's going to come from here. If this was a pricing guide where they just booked my services, I want to let them know the next time they're going to hear from me, what happens going forward. Maybe I have a link to schedule time with me here now that they've submitted payment and contract, because again, those pages are blocked depending on their actions. So contract, invoice, service selection, those are all going to be kind of like barriers to the next page until they've completed that thing. So by the time they get here, they have submitted payment. Okay. Another thing you could do here is if you're selling like, I see people asking what evergreen is. So I'm just talking about selling like products or products as services. So I was talking about when a couple years ago, maybe it was even last year, I don't remember, we had one of our educators, Latasha, come up, and she was talking about passive income, and she was talking about how she sells courses. And we talked about how to sell courses in the HoneyBook tool. We kind of hodgepodge them together, but the set of tools didn't really exist. You kind of had to, there were still some pieces you had to manually do. For example, send an invoice manually. Whereas now with Smart Files, you can automatically send an invoice, contract, service file, and it's all one file. So you don't have to hodgepodge those pieces together. If you wanted to sell something that is not just a service, but is more of, evergreen is kind of like passive income. So it's something that is always running on the back end. Maybe you sell your images to people. If you're a photographer, you sell stock images to people, and this is the flow for getting them through submitting payment. And then at the end here, you link them out to your gallery that they've paid for access to, where they can download any of your stock images. Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about here. And it, again, might not apply to everyone. That's why I'm saying take what applies to your business, leave the rest. I'm talking to a huge audience today, so I'm trying to speak to all of you and make it relatable to all of you at once. Okay, I know we're getting short on time. I want to show you guys what to do with this file now that we've built it out. Okay, so this is our hands-off booking file. If we truly wanted to automate it, what we're going to do, again, if you don't know how to set up automations, please go watch my automations webinar. It explains it all in an hour-long session, just like we did today. There are so many nuances of this tool. If you go watch that session, you'll understand how to set it up. And in combination with today's session, you'll be like totally prepared on how to do this. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to come into automations. You're going to build a new automation. You're going to have the first step be to send the file that we just created. So you're going to say send a smart file via email. We're going to go into all, and where is the one that hands off booking? This is the one I just built. Yes, we're going to set that up. And then I need to select my email that's going to go along with it. I can preview and edit that email. That's not a very good one, but I could edit it right here if I needed to. That's why I say always set up the emails and the files at the same time, right? That was step 3 in our 5-step thing to set up automations. When 0 days after activating the automation. Great. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to say hands off booking. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to pop back out, and now I'm going to attach it to online courses. So I know that when I sell my online courses, there is a specific contact form that my clients fill out that is attached to this project type already, and everyone who comes in and fills out that form is going to go through this automatic flow where they fill out that form, and then they're automatically dropped into this flow where they get this file sent to them with that email. They go through the whole process. If they submit payment, if they sign that contract, if they do that service selection, they're going to get access to the course, and I never have to touch the client if I don't want to. Okay, a different example, obviously, is the pricing guide example, where you are going to end up being a little bit more hands-on with that client. So in that case, you might add an extra follow-up step here where 3 days after you send this file, you want to send a follow-up email to ask them if they have any questions. Okay, that's just another example here. Okay. That was a ton of information. Let's go through any questions that you guys have. I know they've been coming through in the Q&A, and I'm not going to have time to go through everything, but hopefully this was helpful for you guys. There are a million questions in here. Okay. Let's see. Ashley says, can you attach a calendar option for them to decide on the date in the same flow? So you can have a calendar option. So there's two situations here, right? So there's the scheduling tool. So the scheduling tool shows your availability and allows your client to select a time. So there's no way to natively attach scheduling inside of Smart Files right now. I promise you guys it is coming. We are actively working on it and hope to have it out to you guys as soon as we can. It's definitely a huge ask, so I totally get it. There are a couple ways to do this. I think the best way to do it personally, so of course you can hyperlink first off, add text, highlight it. You can say book here, whatever you want to do, and then hyperlink out to your scheduling. So you could have this as your last page in the document where your client can go to the scheduling link and select a time. Okay, so once they've submitted payment, they can go to that page and book it there. I think it's even better. So if you go up to this gear icon into the settings of the file, you can scroll down and there's a redirect URL option. So this is to say that when the client is done with this file and they've submitted it, they hit submit on the last page, it redirects them to this page. And this page can be your scheduling page. Okay, so that is to say the client's completely done interacting with this file and then they're taken out to scheduling so they can choose it. So depending on what your specific need is, you can have it natively inside of the file as a hyperlink at whatever place you need it to be, because remember those actions will kind of act as barriers to hold them back from certain pages in the file. So you can include it in the last page to say schedule here and link out that way. Or you can redirect with the URL. You could also set up an automation so that an email sends to them with the scheduling link after they've submitted the file. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Eventually, there will be an option to have calendar directly in the file, and you can put it in whatever order you need. But for today's sake, that is what we're going for. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Caitlin says, if your package proposals are custom, no set service packages, can you still utilize Smart Files? Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, so today's example is just hands off, right? So this is not going to apply to 100% of businesses. This is just today's topic for those that it does apply to. Smart Files, again, let's level set. Let's take a step back. Smart Files can do exactly what you need them to do. So if you don't need them to do what I showed today, they don't have to. You get to determine what you need the file to do and what it needs to look like. So yes, it could be a simple invoice. It could be a completely customized proposal. Basically, you're just going to build out these files to represent what you need them to do. So they'll just kind of be, the nature of templates is to be a placeholder and to have as much work done ahead of time as possible, right? So you need to sit with your process and think through, up to what line can you build a template? Maybe for your specific business, what you do is so custom. Every client's going to get a different mood board. Every client's going to get a different proposal. That's great. Let's have the first page be a placeholder with all these images. So they're already laid out, placeholders, and you'll put in the images that apply to the specific client's mood board. That's great, but the placeholders are already there. The pages, the skeleton of maybe all you can do is build out the skeleton of the file, just the pages, and have the placeholder for the services that you want to convey to that specific client, a placeholder for the invoice. And then when you go to send it inside of, you don't have to automate the send of it. You can, manually send it just the way you always have. So when you're inside of the project, you pull in that file and you get to make it up for the client's specific needs. But that 30% of the work that you could do ahead of time is already done. So that's the idea here. I mean, always with files and templates in general is to get as far in the process as you can and then stop the line before you start adding customized client-specific information. It's meant to be the most broad brush, high-level idea of what you can do. And some people can get really, really niche. That all of your clients who receive this package are going to receive this pricing guide and this payment plan and this invoice. So you can kind of have a level of predictability there. If it is highly, highly custom and you do just want to build a skeleton of a file so you're not having to start from scratch again every time, then that's what you need to do. Okay, Madeline says, is there a way to let clients select what they want to add to their invoice? I'm a florist and need them to be able to select style, size, and quantity of items. Yeah, totally. So when we are looking at, get me out of here, when I'm looking at services, you can totally have the ability to adjust quantities and things. So when we're talking about the design, you can have as many columns or whatever you need. In the settings, we can adjust on an individual service place. We can say we want the client to be able to customize the quantity. There's just a ton of ways that you can play around with this. So I think for your use case, you would do rows and you would have the image kind of display the style of it. And then you would have the quantity displayed so your client can select it that way. And you would adjust it all there. So you could have the image and the quantity displayed, the unit price, service price, and mess around with these settings until it looks the way you need it to look. Okay, and then your client's able to select the quantity there. Okay, we are 1 minute over time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to more questions. We just had so much to get through today. I super appreciate everything. Thank you guys. Please take the poll before you head out. And the recording will be sent out later today. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Thursday.